the means of cooperating, it takes some of cooperating. It takes some time to identify the means of cooperating, of really creating the fruits we're actually harvesting nowadays. And I think this workshop today shows that we were able in common to identify common topics that are hot. There was a lot of work, but it's worth it, and I'm happy that today we are able to see some of the results already. We have really interesting projects in different scientific areas. You will hear of some of them, and we still have more projects to come. So I'm sure that for the next Green Rio, we will be able to present even more fruits of this cooperation. What I want to underline is that yesterday we had a steering committee meeting between the two countries for the first time again after the COVID time, where it was impossible to travel, it was impossible to meet, and that was a really important steering committee meeting, because I mean these 2 years were tough for everybody, were tough for every individual, hit the world really strongly, and for international cooperation it was really a challenge. Nevertheless, yesterday in our steering committee meeting, where we gathered all the involved ministries, we noticed that the will of cooperating is still there, and the common understanding of where we want to get with this cooperation is still there. So I'm really happy that yesterday we agreed on going on with that cooperation, and thinking about new projects and thinking about new ways of cooperating together to foster the exchange of ideas, the exchange of knowledge between Brazil and Germany. So I'm happy to be here. I'm really happy with the outcome of these meetings in presence here, and I'm as keen as you are now on the outcomes of the project that have been running for some time. So again, from my side, on behalf of BMEL, welcome to everybody, and let's all together enjoy this workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tillman. I'm very happy when you say in the next Green Rio. That means we will continue together. No, without further time, I would like to pass the word now to the Minister of Agriculture, who is here represented by Dr. Clecivaldo Ribeiro, Director of Production Structuring. Dr. Clecivaldo, please.
Bom dia a todos, bom dia a todas. Muito bom ter essa oportunidade de estarmos aqui tentando, vamos dizer assim, né, falar um pouco dos resultados de uma parceria que já é histórica. O que é bacana de tudo isso? É poder ter a oportunidade, acho que no meu caso, eu sou oriundo de uma base de formação que começou com uma parceria Brasil-Alemanha no Nordeste.
That started through a Brazil-Germany partnership in the northeast of Brazil. I'm speaking about 1997, 96. It was a project called Competir, that involved Senai, Sebrae, and GIZ. And I'm telling you all about this because I'm from the state of Piauí, and what's great is to know that when a partnership works out, it continues over time and it has real impact. The economy here in Brazil really depends a lot on this kind of partnership. We are the children of a country that has a lot to offer, a lot to add, a lot to contribute to the world's development. And to be here is a great pleasure. So welcome, Germany. We are here to work together. We are here to keep this country moving forward, to keep this country green, and to have the economy develop itself in this way. And this is the best way for us to live, for us to breathe, for us to really enjoy what is good about these small producers. And the Ministry of Regional Development, in a partnership with the Ministry of Agriculture, we had the opportunity of being present in rural communities in the region of Cariri Moxotó, which is a very vulnerable region in the border of the states of Paraíba and Pernambuco. And we were at the home of an old lady called Dona Madalena, and she said, "Wow, my life really changed. My life is so different now." And we evaluated the results of a project that was developed there and in which they participated. She produced goat's milk. And when we started this project, she did not produce anything. Then she started becoming a small producer. The project was developed for 2 years, and then she was producing 60 to 70 liters of milk per day. And this gave her a monthly income at that time of about 3,000 to 4,000 reals. And before that, she did not produce anything. And this was the direct result of a partnership like this. So I just wanted to give this example because sometimes we talk about so many things, we travel, and I have tried to insist on this, especially in our governments, Mr. Secretary. We want to reflect on the results of these programs that we develop. So the result is not necessarily the application of resources, the capacity building, the courses that we offer, the consulting. The result is actually the transformation that we promote in people's lives. How were they before and how are they today? We need to learn how to do this so we can evaluate if our work is being efficient or not. And it's our responsibility as representatives of the government. We need to understand this. And we never imagined, we never thought that millions and millions of reals could change somebody's life. We need to understand how this can be done, how we do this. And so we need to change our thinking of what these results mean in people's lives. When I spoke about this specific certification that affects family agriculture and small producers that has impacted more than 300,000 people, is because these people's lives have actually changed. They are now living in a different way. And today, we have a fantastic partnership to expand these studies with GIZ's support. These studies will definitely create opportunities, and we will look at different opportunities for the production of biodiesel. So the government's task here is to guarantee that we can increase the amount of fuels that come from biomasses in these mixes and these alternatives to fossil fuels. So we're at about 10%. We want to reach 15% next year, but we understand this is a gradual transition because we are going through a global crisis. So it's not easy to make this happen, but it's a commitment that this government has. We want to reduce the emissions of polluting gases.
And while this is always going on, we still improve people's quality of life, which is fantastic because there's people that live in a vulnerability situation and they are able to reach through the partnership. You can't imagine how much. I always say that the work is being done here has a direct impact right at the edge of the pyramid in the communities in the Northeast, where we develop programs like North, More Sustainable North. These are programs that we have had partnerships with great institutions, and this has changed people's lives. So the partnership, the building of partnership, healthy partnerships such as this one, historical with the German government, are paramount for people's lives so that they can continue to survive, live, and have opportunities to grow through the alternatives that there are in the countryside. I was talking about this yesterday. Family agriculture is the one that feeds us. We have 75% of the food that is at the tables of Brazilians coming from family agriculture, from small producers. And this is exactly why we're here and exactly why we understand the importance of this partnership. And this is why we want to keep and make it persist. So we really wholeheartedly thank the support from the German government that has come over the years. We thank the partnership of the institutions from the German government that constantly have been in Brazil, have basically resided here in Brazil and discussed with us our needs and how to help them. We have our gaps, but we also have a great technical team. We have a lot of good technicians. We have good technical professionals, and these opportunities are created as these technicians can put into work all of what they learned during the research. One of the most capable institutions is Embrapa, for the livestock research and development of a country. And I think this, for us, it's very important to be here occupying this space. And I would like to thank Bia once again for creating an opportunity for us to discuss and to show that we are capable of showing the quality of life of this country through agriculture. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Bia.
Thank you very much.
Muito obrigado, Clecivaldo, diretor Clecivaldo. Eu estou muito orgulhosa de tudo que você falou, porque quando você fala que quando nós temos somente uma bandeira só, é uma bandeira muito verde e é uma metáfora incrível que você fez sobre a bandeira e o evento e o quanto que o Brasil consegue contribuir neste cenário. Muitíssimo obrigado. Eu gostaria de passar a palavra agora para a doutora Verônica Jakonowski, que substituirá então o doutor Stephen Lendot, porque ele não pode estar disponível. Doutora Verônica, muito bom vê-la aqui. Seja muito bem-vinda ao Green Rio. Na próxima vez, eu espero que você possa estar aqui em pessoa. A palavra é sua. Muito obrigada, Bia. Você pode parar a tradução? Eu estou ouvindo a tradução no meu ouvido.
Stefan Lampel is unfortunately unavailable today due to illness, and that's why I have some welcoming words on behalf of the Federal Ministry of Education and Science in Germany. Ladies and gentlemen, you all know we are facing huge challenges these days. The war in Ukraine is even intensifying the food crisis and the need for an energy and resource turnaround. However, we are not powerless with regard to these crises. We are all asked to confront them resolutely. We do so with courage, openness, and sustainable innovations, and we do it together. The bioeconomy is even more important than ever in this context. We need the bioeconomy for a livable, climate-neutral, and sustainable future. But we are still using the bioeconomy not enough. We need to exploit its full potential. The philosopher Sir Karl Popper once said, "We can improve our world by taking responsibility." And we are willing to bear that responsibility. We are willing to break down barriers, and we are willing to use the given opportunities. And what I point out in particular is that we have this global responsibility to find a way to stop climate change, to change the entire industrial production to a sustainable way, and to keep the world a livable place. And the global corporations are mandatory for this.
Já que estamos todos com diferentes desafios, temos que encontrar soluções juntos. Para isso, nós criamos o Biocon Internacional 10 anos atrás e estamos para nossa cooperação com o Brasil. Nós começamos com uma cooperação com o Brasil, como foi isso aqui. Estamos muito felizes para os resultados Brasil e Alemanha, da parte da Alemanha, e estamos prontos para lançar um outro, com o nosso comitê brasileiro, no futuro próximo, lançar um novo projeto. Mas eu gostaria um workshop muito interessante aqui para que poder aprender sobre essas cooperações bilaterais muito bem sucedidas.
Muito obrigada, Verônica. Thank you very much, Verônica.
Muito obrigada, Verônica. Da próxima vez.
I would like to invite now, I don't know if Dr. Marcelo Morales has arrived from FINEP. Because I love him so much, that's why I'm saying Marcelo Morales. It's now it's Dr. Marcelo Morales, it's not from FINEP. It's you.
Thank you, Bia. I love you too.
I will not take a picture like that.
I think all of us loves you. And good morning. Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to be here. And all members of this session, it's a pleasure for me to see how special is this moment and to talk with you about this very successful collaboration between Germany and Brazil. Bia, I'm going to switch to Portuguese. I think once we have okay, thank you. Bia, Tillman, Stefan, Clecivaldo, todos os componentes da mesa. É muito importante esse momento para mim, não como secretário de pesquisa e formação científica do Ministério da
Scientific
Ciência,
information for the Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation, but as a scientist myself. Clecivaldo said back at the edge, what we want, the edge of the pyramid, to reach the well-being of our population. But we can only reach our population's well-being adding value and bringing science, knowledge, and the knowledge that is generated inside the country brings well-being and riches to the countries. Countries that invest in science and technology are the successful ones, the ones that have the most sustainable development possible, and is with that value as a scientist that I see this cooperation with Brazil and Germany, not only in bioeconomy, Tillman, but also the scientific cooperation that we have very well consolidated with Germany in all areas of human knowledge. I'm a biophysician, I'm a doctor, and our cooperations in physics and biophysics are spectacular. This not only brings knowledge and scientific development, but also technological development, which in itself brings well-being to the whole world, not only just to the Brazilian population or German population. And the possibility to be able to meet again in person with technical visitations and meetings is going to allow us to go deeper into this partnership with Germany, that we've had a history of developing joint knowledge in several areas, and it's not going to be different when it comes to bioeconomy, since both countries prioritize bioeconomy in their sustainable development. All my other colleagues have already exposed each of the ministries that are involved in this cooperation, and in bioeconomy, what we've done so far. And about the Ministry of Science and Technology, it's in the base of bringing the knowledge to everyone and to improve using the best knowledge available here between both nations. And science is actually the best diplomacy that we can have. When we discuss science, politics are left behind. And the love that scientists have in reaching their goals and making improvements for the populations at the edge of the pyramid is what we have, especially me as a doctor, I wanted to be a doctor since I was a kid in order to help people. And when I was going through medical school, being a scientist, I would actually be able to reach more people. And when I was invited to be a secretary and scientist, I saw that I could reach even more people. And this is a great motto, to reach a positive impact in people's lives. Between 2020 and 2021, we did the ODBO project, Opportunities and Challenges of Bioeconomy. And always, every time I have a problem and I don't know how to take care of it, I do a seminar or a symposium or a workshop, as I do in the lab. I gather my students up, we discuss that topic specifically, bring bibliographic references, we do presentations, a great brainstorming session, and then we set up a project that we want to develop. And this was not any different with the opportunities and challenges of ODBO that brought the strategies of Ministry and Science and Technology and Innovation to our bioeconomy. And I would like to highlight here that they received governmental, academic, and business contributions, which allowed them to establish a forum of discussions with several actors of the Brazilian bioeconomy sector. This strategy is represented by the mandala that I don't know where it is. It should probably be back here at the back. Whereas the mandala, that's the slide that the secretary asked us to project. Thank you. And here it is structured after this discussion. It's structured in 4 thematic axes, which we're going to work with: sustainable production, biomanufacture, industrial biomanufacture, management of knowledge, and the support to bio businesses. I think this is a very important strategy because it allows us to advance in critical sectors for our economies as the productive chains of biodiversity, sustainable agriculture, industrial biotechnology, new materials, renewable chemistry, bioenergy, and energetic transition, new food systems, contemporary food systems, pharmaceutical and cosmetic industries, resources, circular economy, and food security and nutrition. Integrating this strategy, we have the axle of support to biobusinesses, innovation in bioeconomy, which had their first action yesterday and was launched in Green Rio. This network has 27 Embrapi units which work directly with the bioeconomy topic and circular economy. Embrapi, like FINEP and CNDQ, are agencies connected to our ministry. And this Embrapi action is going to aid us in developing structuring projects in strategic areas for bioeconomy, such as biological control, resources, all connected to our map and totally in line with it, biorefinery technology, and renewable chemistry through biomass. In the same meeting, it was announced a new fostering mechanism, Business Fund Alliance, which is going to support cooperative projects from sectors of science, startups, companies in borderline topics such as knowledge. 20 million has are already available to make it operational. Another very important topic is that the international cooperations are also very important. We were gathered here today with our German partners to deepen the cooperation between the two countries.
And we defined the next steps in this meeting. We exchanged experiences and lessons learned. And I would like to highlight that a common point of interest for both countries that is part of this strategy is the sustainable bio inputs. So we launched alongside FINEP and CNPq and with resources from the National Fund for Scientific Development, And this is where I highlight the importance of this national fund for research. We need to have this fund so that we can have a foreseeability on funding for research. So this is something that I really want to highlight. This needs to exist for the researchers, and we are seeing the results of some of this now. We launched 2 open calls that total 72 million for the development of agricultural inputs that are sustainable. And this year we launched more than 70 public open calls, totaling approximately 3.5 billion reals. And this is quite an achievement for Brazilian science that depends on these resources. Another program that I would like to highlight in this strategy is the program for productive chains in the bioeconomy. We have 2 open calls right now with 40 million reals, 28 million for companies and 12 million for researchers. And we will try and find solutions here for the technological issues and challenges and other programs that we are structuring for the next few years are programs for science and technology for biorefineries and the program Renova Química and a program for foods of the future that do participate, that count on the participation of the Brazilian industry and businesses. I also want to highlight the importance of the circular economy for this strategy, and recently we instituted a specialist in the circular economy. So there are so many strategies and actions to be discussed, and all of this is done with a scientific base, which guarantees that we will have results. And this is what we are doing with Germany. So I want to thank you for this partnership, a partnership not just with Germany, but with actors in Brazil. We are articulating with ministries, with agencies, so that all of this can happen. Thank you, Bia, and thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Secretary
Muito
Morales.
obrigada.
I think that you said something that reminds me a very quick story I wanted to share with you, that somebody asked what God will ask you when you arrive in heaven. And he will ask, how many souls, how many lives have you touched? And I am very proud that I can speak here from these 3 people who are here. You have touched many lives. And that's very important, that this table and this partnership is touching so many lives. And that's the best legacy that this project could have. So congratulations. I'm very proud to be with this side of the table representing Brazil, and to see with that side of the table representing Germany. What a wonderful moment to have so many lives being touched by you, and I thank you for that. Well, we are going to continue. Now I think I can call Marcelo Camargo. Is he around? Has he arrived? If not, I will go on and ask immediately Dr. Birger. Where are you, Birger? Are you here? Online? No, I want to know if he's here on the screen. Wonderful. Not yet in Rio, but next year. Welcome.
Well, shall I start?
Yes, please. The screen is all yours.
Yes. Well, so order was supposed to be the opposite one. So Marcelo Camargo was first in your list. So
but he's not here. I'm sorry.
As he has a very full presentation of the call, and so maybe it will be a bit funny now. Well, what I would briefly say, well, the results of the joint calls
rapidamente que
were 4 projects, then 3 on the project topic, industrial use of renewable resources. So the Agro-Alliance project, development of Agropolitical algae chains, and the micro-hop projects, micro-encapsulated hop extracts, the Bioeconomy project, development of Amazonian biodiversity from renewable resources, and then 1 project on the topic medicinal and aromatic plants. So it's a multi-plant-in project, native Brazilian plants as a source of innovative raw materials. Well, and the project started between early 2022 and October 2022, and unfortunately, the German side of the project started rather late. Well, we had our federal elections last year in September. We took us quite some time to have a new government, and naturally the new government wants to have decide about the federal budget for this year. And this took very long, so we ended with having a new budget for this year just in July 2022. So that's the reason for our delay, and well, it's completely out of our hands. But, well, if everything goes well, we will have our next federal elections in the year 2025, so some years to go there. Well, just a brief overview about the projects, because I understand you will have a Brazilian workshop about the projects this afternoon. And so the Agro-Alliance project has a goal to develop high-value refined oils, proteins, and dietary fibers from Karuba foods while addressing major gaps for the development of a sustainable network. And the German Fraunhofer Institute, and I think about the Brazilian partner.
The sound is not good.
Important project for the sustainable use of local biodiversity, which I understand is a very important aspect. Then the second project, it's not plant-in, so it's the native Brazilian plants as a source of innovative raw materials. So with the aim to establish a scientific collaboration between Brazilian and German universities to exchange the knowledge and expertise to explore and cultivate native Brazilian plants, and with a company, Leo, aiming to develop and produce innovative raw materials for the cosmetic industry. And so this project, it has partners from Brazil, so the Federal University of Goiás and the Federal University of Sao Paulo, and German partners are the University of Wuppertal in Germany and the University of Berlin, and then you have a Brazilian company working on the commercialization of the results of the project. Well, completely different project is micro-encapsulated hop extracts. So the first 2 projects are funded by the German Ministry of Agriculture. This project and the next one are funded by the German Ministry of Research. And so there's the aim is to develop a novel feed additive on the basis of hop, well, which is well known for its antimicrobial properties, well, and with the aim to contribute to a healthy and sustainable growth of poultry. So antibiotic use in poultry farming is an important issue, and this feed additive could reduce the use of antibiotics in this industry. So I think it would be very important for, well, both for animal health but also for human health in the end. And the partners are the University of Erlangen-Nuremberg in Germany and the University of John Will in Brazil. And finally, the Bioeconomy project is about the development of Amazonian biodiversity from renewable resources. So they're looking for iodine agents with good color intensity and high fastness for the industrial coloration of biopolymers. And they look at dyes from Amazonian plant resources, mining crops, and food industry residues, always ensuring that there's no harm to the environment. And they are aiming also for industrial viable solutions, so reducing the drawbacks of biogas so fast. So that's the fastness of drying of biogas, low affinity, low heat stability, and metal and water pollution, etc. This is a project with 5 partners. So you have 2 German partners, the University of Aachen and the company Bachel, GmbH.
Burke, can I interrupt you a little bit?
Also in Brazil, that's
Oh my God.
Industria e Comércio de Plásticos, and the University Federal of Rio Grande do Sul, and finally the National Institute de Pesquisas na Amazônia. So I won't continue the name in Portuguese because my Portuguese is too poor. So I think it's a very nice balanced partnership, I have to say.
Burke, can I interrupt you a little bit?
Learned from the joint call, which started actually in 2020 and then took the whole year of 2021. So I think what was a very positive experience that the response to this joint call was very, very high, especially from the Brazilian side, also from the German side. Then I think the proposed template was good, both in form and in contents. And while the eligible proposals and the expert evaluation were of very high quality, which created a kind of a luxury problem for the agencies and the ministries because we had to decide between many, many excellent projects. And also this was not easy. The final decision meeting on which proposals to select for funding was very straightforward and in harmony between the Brazilian funds and the German funds. But we have also learned a few things. We still think we can do better in the future. So I think it would be important to still to improve communication to applicants with the aim to lower the number of ineligible proposals, as there was quite a high number of proposals which did not pass eligibility check. And so elements of improved communication would be to improve dissemination. So with the call documents, webinar, and the guidelines for applicants. Then I think what would be also advisable is to have one central submission platform for Germany and Brazil to submit the proposals. Whether the submission platform in Brazil or in Germany finally doesn't matter, but it would make the proposal management more effective and it would reduce the workload and potential confusion for applicants. Then one aspect we've found is that, well, we should still strive to encourage applicants to improve the description of the exploitation of the project results, both in Germany and in Brazil, as this is a key aspect for the scientific evaluation and also for the, well, for the decision-making of the agency and the ministry. So exploitation with the aim really to bring results of research projects to the market, well, ranks quite high among the criteria. Well, and finally, something we learned, and I've touched this already, is that it will be important for the next call to find a good balance between the scope of the call and the available budget of the call. So to, well, to ensure that there are not too many frustrated proposals who have finally submitted an excellent proposal and still did not receive any funding. Well, that's my presentation. Well, as I pointed out, so order of presentation was supposed to be the other way around. So I hope Marcelo Camargo is around now, and then he can go more into detail on a number of aspects here. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very, very much. But I must ask you something. That's why I was trying to interrupt you. We don't get the presentation. Can you upload the presentation? Do you mind?
Oh,
because we were paying attention all the time. I was just writing everything you were saying.
Oh, that's my mistake. I'm very sorry.
No problem. But if you think it's too much to just to pass the slides very quickly, you can show very quickly, and then we send the presentation to everybody. We publish in Green Hill.
Okay. Oh, I'm very sorry for this
That's
mistake.
why I was trying to never mind.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah,
But
I did not hear you, and I had the presentation on my screen. So, can you see it now?
Yes, we see. It's beautiful.
Okay, so then very short, really, really short. So, well,
Thank you.
just to show the 4 projects I've mentioned. Well, and I won't go into the details there again. So, Agro Alliance, Micro Biopolical, and Not Plan In. Well, then there were the descriptions of the 4 projects then. So first Agro Alliance, then Not Plan In, Micro Hop with micro encapsulated hop extracts, and finally Biopolycol with the development of Amazonian biodyes from renewable resources. Well, and my final slide, and that was the one which were elaborated most on, were really the lessons learned from the first joint call. So the positive experiences we had with this joint call, but also things we can still do better the next time with regard to the communication, to the central submission platform, the proposal content and exploitation of results, and finally, well, the balance between scope of the call and available budget from Brazil and Germany. So sorry for this, but this was a communication problem.
No problem, no problem. It's good that now we have twice the information. We learn more. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. And it's very good, your idea of have a center of communication. I thank you. I don't know what. You want to comment something or?
Yesterday we had a very productive meeting, and I think I'm going to say to Portuguese. Que quando eu começo a falar em português eu não consigo falar em inglês.
I can't speak English, and when I start speaking Portuguese, I can't speak the other language. So it's kind of like ties down my head. Everything twirls around. But anyway, we had a meeting, a very productive meeting with good directions, and the topics will be delved deeper into in the programs that we had resources with conjunct call, joint call, and we had some problems. There was always problems, and we have to work on solving and learning from them, from what we had that didn't go as planned previously. And so this was deeply discussed, strategies to mitigate these problems, to get better resources. We had in the call, for example, projects which were evaluated through merit, and if we can get additional resources, I think that we can count from the Brazilian sides to foster these projects that were, evaluated with merit but did not get resources because there were not enough resources available. We can actually, use this evaluation to start fostering these projects that have already been evaluated and are relevant. So if we have resources from both sides, I believe that we can foster them. But the most important point is to go deeper into the topics that we had already talked about. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada.
It's a special pleasure
Agora tenho prazer
invite now
incrível.
to the next panel, which is Brazil-German project on pharmaceutical plants. And very, very happy I invite Dr. Josiane Costa to take the floor. Please, Josiane, welcome.
Thank you, Bia. I would like to thank you for invitation to this table. It's a great honor, and at the same time, a great recognition of our work that you have developed. I would like to welcome our German friends here, and at the same time, apologize me because my talk is going to be in Portuguese to reaffirm our linguistic identity. So, well, vamos em português agora. Bom,
I'm here in order to present the Article of Fito project, which we developed in a partnership with the Agriculture Ministry and the Oswaldo Cruz Foundations, which is also connected to the Health Ministry. The Oswaldo Cruz Foundation is a strategic institution for the state that goes towards the promotion of the health in the Brazilian population. And this value chain project in medicinal plants has a strategic axle in the inclusion, productive inclusion, to improve the quality of life of Brazilian population, especially in the production base for family agriculturists and extractivists, which are our main beneficiaries. It has been developed since 2015 when we did a great diagnosis effort for 26 productive chains, identifying, and it's important to highlight that we used a method from our German partners here in Brazil, GAZ, and this methodology, which was adapted to the analysis of a Brazilian biodiversity, has allowed us to identify potential problems and potential great things to explore and challenges for the great chains of bioeconomy in the country regarding special vegetable species of our biodiversity. And our focus lies in the economic growth for fair opportunities in the market and competitive approach, generating advantages for this production base. Another very important focus that we have, I don't know if there's any, I'm sorry. There we go. So Article of Fito, this project is focused on the mapping of the production base for medicinal plants with the focus and the extractivism and the base, productive base, extractive produce and family agriculture. So through the value links methodology with the cooperation between Brazil and Germany, represented here by G&Z, diagnosed 26 products of value chains from family agriculture chains and extractivists in 4 different biomes in Brazil, focusing on medicinal, food, and cosmetic segments. And from this diagnosis, we were able to identify potential problems and gaps and challenges and potentials and fragilities. Article of Fito project is developed in the Fiocruz Foundation with a partnership with the Brazilian Agriculture Ministry, and it's important, it wants to outline the policies and services focused on the social perspective, economic perspective, and environmental perspective. And in this perspective, our focus is to create fair markets, environmental sustainability using our biodiversity, water, energy, and mitigation of climate change, and also the production inclusion of the community through these family agriculture endeavors and the traditional communities that are also present in these biomes. And now I am going to focus, so to have a very short time, in a chain that's specifically that brought us to this cooperation table, because we had a few bilateral meetings with Chinescun Institute, and here we have the Florian Frank here to talk a little bit more about the cooperation that we had from the intention letter that we signed with the Fiocruz Institution and the Julius Kuhn Institute through the Article of Fito project, to be able for them to support us in one of the actions, and a few of the actions in this project, specifically regarding the training, quality control, and interchange of knowledge. So through these bilateral dialogues, we are going to be able to make a visit to the value chain of Jaborandi in the National Forest of Carajás, where there is the production through extractivist workers of the jaborandi leaves, where pilocarpine is extracted to produce medication for glaucoma and for patients that have ostomized and that have some problems moistening their trachea. So these two medications are produced from this, from the resources gathered at this production basin project from people who are in social vulnerability situation extremely high. And we live this contradiction in Brazil where we have workers. This bioeconomy needs to reach the productive base. We have levers in Jaborandi who produce medication for the pharmaceutical industry, but contradiction to that, we have a social sanitary situation that is horrible, and this is why Fiocruz and the strategic foundation that understands health not only as doctors, medication, and hospitals, but a broader scope to have rights, sanitation, and a proper land and proper living conditions for these people, so they can have quality of life. So when we did this mapping of this change, the problems that we identified were it's an extremely heavy load of work. It needs to be coordinated, obviously. There's a lack of succession because the children of the workers do not want to exert the same profession because it's extremely hard work. So there will be no succession because there is not enough technology. And I think that FINEP is really, and MCTI is really important to look at this productive base, because if we want to generate riches, we need to generate riches to these people that are in this productive base. So, but we also have opportunities. So the opportunities also come through these partnerships, mapping partnerships, not only for this country, but also international partnerships, because Brazil has been considered a hotspot for the climate change issues. We are a strategic country for the future when it comes to these topics of climate change, which, we had all these breaks, systemic breaks, ecological breaks. There has been a pandemic and a change in human relations and production chains, and that's why these value chains, because in a production chain, we don't look necessarily at the relationships. We look at the production chains in a very fragmented scope. What is a resource is a resource. Whoever wants to buy buyers, and when we look at value chains, we look at specific values, not only monetary, but also cultural, environmental, social, and other issues such as gender, for example. There's a great expectation that we can work with training, partnerships, and diversify, because we know that the production of the leaves doesn't need to be the only economic activity to this community. And here I bring the coordination, the agricultural, the broadening of the knowledge base in the sustainable base of agriculture and institutional development, which means the strengthening of the conscious side and the development through these partnerships. And that's the signed deal, and we see our pictures. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada. Parabéns, Josiane. Você e sua equipe fazem um trabalho maravilhoso. Eu estou tão orgulhosa de vocês. Você sabe que eu estou muito orgulhosa de você e da sua equipe. Parabéns. Parabéns a todos vocês, a todas as mulheres maravilhosas.
Stand up, Martinha. You need to be recognized because you're representing the... Yes. Good to see you. Congratulations. Frank, you have a very important mission because you are now the counterpart of this article Lafito, and I think Germany could be better represented than by you. Please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And maybe I can have my presentation, only some slides. And let me stand up and say it's a pleasure for me, it's an honor to be here. And I want to use this chance to give some information about the US Kuhn Institute and my institute. Do we have a pointer? Is there a pointer? And we start now cooperation with, as Josanne said, and many things, as we heard in the morning, go in the good and right direction, but not all. Things are changing in the world. You know, we heard about climate change, and we have some other, there's a war in Europe, we have an energy crisis or problem at least. And so let me present here some ideas, one idea, one example to overwind this crisis. In Germany, we have only half of the next one. Can I have the next slide? No, now it is wrong, but don't work. The next slide. This is, one back, please, one back. One back is the structure, but we can go over to this example I want to present to you. That is an example on caraway. Now we have the one before, and the point is that we work with three groups of plants, of crops, vegetable, medicinal, aromatic plants, and also ornamental plants in my institute. And at the first, I have written that we are working with adaptation to abiotic stress. Abiotic stress is, on my opinion, on the top of our problems. Yield is the second, that is not new. And all this we do for new cultivation systems. New cultivation systems in Germany are under discussion. It's necessary because in this year we have only in the region, the northern Harz region, only half of the precipitation from normal years. Okay, quality improvement is a big point. Evaluation of plant genetic resources that we do over years, over decades, and that is a must for breeding, for the begin of breeding, and we want to do this also in the future, and as a chance to give attention to the value of plant genetic resources, natural resources, and we can do and want to do this also together with the Brazilian friends. Resistance is another big point, and also organic cultivation. But I have not enough time. Maybe we can discuss the next slide. I have to hurry up. The next slide is I can do that by myself. Yeah, okay. Caraway. Caraway is important in Germany, also in Brazil, but maybe more in Germany. And we import a lot of caraway. And the idea is to, in the next slide, to have better caraway, which we can also use for medicinal products. For this, we need more than 3% essential oil that comes from the pharmacopoeia, and we need better yield. Our breeding goal is not 3, it is 5% essential oil and 1.5 tons per hectare. For this we need rain. That's a central problem. Next slide. I switch some crossing and selection steps and present you the first results of winter annual caraway. So you should know that caraway is normally a biannual plant. It is a long time. Growers are not happy with this. And we, beginning from the 90s, starting developing annual caraway. Annual caraway you sow in the spring, and spring is now so dry that we will lose the yield. So the idea, make winter annual caraway, and you see there is an aprim related lines. There is a line, there is a variety from Czech Republic, very low in essential oil, 2.5. I please remember, said you that Pharmacopoeia said minimally 3%, and that's why we crossed our material with high essential oil material. But our crossing partners are biannual. So that is the result after the winter 1920, and you see that are our standards. You see nothing. That is from 0 to 100%, and the standards we lose completely. Our lines are in the middle, and why you show this, the aprim lines are the best ones, so it's not a surprise. The next one gives us the information about essential oil, and you see that the aprim lines are not good enough in essential oil. Some of them are now over 3%, but not stable. But our material goes up to 6.5%. So that is breeding material, and that is our mission, to produce such material together with partners of the industry, or breeder and grower in this concrete project. And that could be an idea, that could be a way to have caraway production also in the next years, and also under the conditions of dry spring and dry summer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frank. I think this partnership with Fiocruz and Articula Fito can only bring only good news for us in the next future, very next future. So to follow up, I would like to invite now Dr. Ian Bonner, if he's going to enter online.
Não, ele está aqui ao lado.
Cadê ele?
Aqui, ó.
Ah, I had the information that you would be online. You were mostly welcome. Sorry. My mistake. You materialized yourself here.
Você se materializou aqui na...
Muito bom dia. Meu nome é Ian.
Good morning. I'm Ian. I am one of the colleagues that works on this project. We have a shared presentation here with Jorge, who is next to me. He speaks much better Portuguese than me, and I will speak a little bit, and he will speak a lot. I just want to give you an introduction on our project. I don't know if the slides are available. All right. Production team, can we get the slides up here? Can we get the slides up here? Well, I can start speaking in the meantime. We know that the bioeconomy has a proposal, a transformational proposal. It means transforming the current system into a sustainable economy. And we know that we agree that this can only be done with technology and knowledge. But it is not enough to just have technology and knowledge. We need rules, we need public policies, regulations so that this knowledge can be used in a sustainable way. We felt that 3 to 4 years ago, this focus did not really exist in research on bioeconomy. So we developed a project that speaks about the governance issue, which is the process of creating rules and policies, implementing them, and understanding if they work or not. That is the proposal of this project that is divided in two groups. A group that thinks more about public policies and studying processes on creating policies for the bioeconomy, and a group that works with impacts. How does this work? Do these policies work? What is the transformational impact that they have on the bioeconomy? So we have a group of economists led by Jorge, who is here, who is the next speaker, and the group of policies is led by another colleague who is not here with us right now. Jorge's group collaborates with the University of Bonn. We have a group of scientific cooperation that works in each country. And as the Ministry of Agriculture of Germany has a bilateral agreement, we work with them. So we work with Brazil, Uruguay, and Argentina. We have focuses in these three countries to understand how these transformational policies work. And Guilherme, who is here, works with us as well. He works in the public policy group. So if you have questions about that, you can ask him later. Can we go to the next slide, please? These are the ministries that I have just mentioned. Each country has a strategy for the economy that we try to follow, and we try to follow the implementation of these policies. And I think that, okay, I've already said enough, so I'm going to pass the floor to Jorge now. Thank you. Can we go to the next slide, please? So these are our research groups. Where do I need to click here? To the right? Okay, I think it's working. Great. So I'm going to try and give you a brief presentation here on results for the subjects that we work with in both research teams, my group, and then the group that is led by Karen, as Jan just mentioned. So when we speak of the bioeconomy, many times we speak about the energy issue. And yes, there are good reasons for this. If we look at data from 2019, about 85% of all of the energy, of the global energy, comes from fossil fuels and sources. So low carbon alternatives are a very small percentage of this. So this transition to more sustainable energy sources is a very important point of the bioeconomy that appears frequently in these debates. So if we want to conduct this transition to renewable sources, we need policies to support this transition.
And we see that some kind of policies that have been the hotspot on the spotlight here are the bids for renewable energy sources. As you can see, the International Renewable Energy Agency has a very interesting report about the bids for this kind of energy. This is kind of policy that has been adopted by several countries in the north, and is going to be adopted for many countries in the south. And there are good reasons, theoretical reasons, to ask ourselves whether this policy kind of works or doesn't in our context. For example, where the quality of the institutions is not as good, or countries where they have problems, macroeconomical problems. So we decided to ask ourselves this kind of question in an article that we were preparing. And so we created a database with about 100 countries, data coming from 2000 to 2020, to analyze these bids and see if they actually help to increase the percentage in the energy matrix of the countries. And these are different ways to estimate the effects of the policies. And then what we see is that, yes, in the general way, there is a positive effect of the percentage of renewable energies in this energy matrix for each country. However, when we break down these data for when countries that have good macroeconomical institutions and countries that maybe not so much, we see that the results are really interesting. We see that the countries with good institutions and a good macroeconomic condition, the bids work perfectly, but not in countries with macroeconomic problems and institutional problems. So the next question that we need to ask ourselves is, can we do something about the design of this policy to make it work in this kind of context? And this is why we decided to zoom in to the Argentinian case, because as you know, Argentina has a lot of institutional problems and macroeconomic problems as well. It has had for the last few decades, and then they recently implemented a bid called Renovar in 2015, and a very interesting observation in this, sorry, okay, I passed twice, in this Argentinian program is that they implemented a guarantee structure. There are 3 levels of guarantees. Basically means that if by some reason the entrepreneur or the investor that won the bid does not get paid for the money for implementing the new renewable sources, there are 3 different levels that guarantee that he will get the money, and this obviously reduces the risks related to investing in this kind of energy in their country. And when we did our analyses, the full line is the trajectory of Argentina, and the dotted line is the synthetic Argentinian built with econometric data, and we can see that the factual progress of Argentina until 2015, 2016, which is when the policy is implemented in Argentina, and then we see that it really takes off significantly, which suggests that the Argentinian policy was indeed successful. And I think that this shows the importance of a well-designed policy, taking into consideration the context of each country where the policy is being implemented. So now going to Brazil, we all know Renova Bio, the main policy system for bioeconomy and for biofuels in Brazil. But this policy is relatively recent, so I think that really there's no way to say what kind of effects this policy had in our lives. But my friend Fernanda Martinelli did a study with biofuel specialties. She interviewed dozens of them to try to get their perspective on how Renova Bio could potentially impact the ODSs. As you can see, the SDGs, sorry. You can see the SDGs, the goals were categorized in different aspects. And you can see here in this graphic, the more to the right is more impact that the policy is going to have, and the higher, the more positive impact. And what you can see in terms of climate and economy, the specialists are really optimistic related to Renova Bio. They think that the policy is going to have very good impacts in our economy, but they are less optimistic when they talk about social aspects on the left, the bottom left corner of the graphic. But we're going to say that, yes, okay, Renova Bio is not a social policy, so maybe it makes sense that specialists don't think that it's going to have social impact. So I think that the next step to discuss in this policy is going to the social fuel that Dr. Classivaldo has already mentioned, to create in 2004 we had the goal to integrate small producers in the value chains for biodiesel, especially biodiesel, and with that cause a regional development in the northeast region of Brazil, and diversify the kind of biomass as well utilized in the production of biodiesel. But what we see in the trajectory, these are the amounts commercialized in the policy for the seal per region of Brazil. And what we see in this case, that most the commercialized biomass is coming from the south region of Brazil. Is that a problem itself? Not necessarily, because we can say that the small producers of the south region are getting benefits from this policy, but however, we know that in Brazil, the most complicated regions that have the lowest socioeconomical indexes are the north and northeast region. And however, this has not been the benefit. This policy has not benefited these populations. And the reason for that is that because soy took over in the policy, because it's a kind of biomass that's much more efficient to produce for biodiesel, and the soy market is also much more structured and consolidated than the other biomasses that we have available here. So here it's important for us to ask ourselves if biofuel policies are the most adequate, if we presume that our goal is to generate development, economic development in the north and northeast, the poorer regions of the country. This is a food for thought that I leave you in this presentation. Of course, as we know, the bioeconomy is not only just biofuels, it's not just sugarcane and soy. There is a lot of biodiversity, and a topic that has come time and time again is bioresources. We have a very bio-based inputs, and of course inputs means a lot of things, but we've had focused on agricultural bio-inputs based on microbiome. It's a kind of technology that several organizations in the international organizations have promoted this kind of use of technology, and we are trying to create a system, all the literature that already exists and the kind of knowledge that we already have and what's still lacking in this kind of technology. And what we see is that despite all this hype with this kind of technology, the levels of adoption are still very, very low. This probably is because the producers don't necessarily know the benefits of this kind of technology, and we also see that the literature that exists is not coming from the real world. It's something coming from labs and scientific controlled tests. So we still don't know very well what kind of social economical effects that the adoption of this kind of technology for agricultural production is going to have. I think this is a gap in knowledge that we still have to fill. Oh, sorry, I went over one slide. So when we talk about biodiversity and the use of biodiversity, it's important to think in the law about the laws in the country to try to regulate the use of biodiversity. And a law that we have is the Biodiversity Law, which is what Guilherme is going to discuss. So if you have any questions, you can talk to him later. But what Guilherme shows in his study is that basically, despite this whole policy having brought benefits and gains of efficiency and diversification of the system, of how to share the benefits of the biodiversity, this law still has a lot of challenges to go through. There's this underfinancing in terms of administration, and the projects that should have been implemented to distribute these benefits have not been implemented yet, at least not properly. And last but not least, I'd like to emphasize the importance of value chains. When we talk about bioeconomy and biodiversity, there's a lot of potential to generate new products, more sustainable products based in biomass and biodiversity. But with the creation of these new products, we're naturally going to have new value chains being added, supply chains that generate value around these products. I'm not going to go into further detail because of the time, but basically these are conceptual examples of value chains that we're probably going to see being developed from bioeconomy, and we're trying to emphasize here what's the role that the provider of biomass is going to have in these new chains. So here we have chains ranging from simple, like biodiesel, for example, fast generation biodiesel, and highly technological based in biotechnology of state of the art. And so it's very important to keep in mind the kind of structure that these new chains are going to have, because the way that these structure themselves will inevitably impact who benefits from these new markets. And I'm going to stop my presentation right here. I would like to leave to you our website. I invite you all to check it out. You can, subscribe to the newsletter so you can hear all the news about our projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I speak English because I
Muito
was
obrigado.
supposed to speak English.
Eu estou falando inglês porque eu deveria falar.
And then I'm going to use a Brazilian expression that I don't know how the translator will manage to translate this, because você levantou uma bola, you raised the
You kind
ball,
of lifted the ball, or just
I think the Brazilian would like to answer and complement what you just said with your very good presentation, by the way. Congratulations, parabéns. And so immediately I send the ball to Clecivaldo and then to Secretary Morales, because I think they would like to comment your presentation. Por favor, passei a bola para você, Clecivaldo.
The ball is yours.
Obrigado, Bia. Mas é um comentário
Thank you,
rápido.
Bia. It's a little comment.
A ideia é só
The idea is just
fazer
to
comentário
comment
da importância que
the
tem sido
importance that there has had. It's very important for us to have this reference, especially towards diversification of biomass for the production of biodiesel in Brazil. The policy, when it was created in 2004, it had the goal to contribute with the development of production and the improvement of quality of life and generating income for family agriculturers in the Northeast. Since soy has, become so prominent, we know that it's a very powerful culture, even though oil has always been a residue rather than because animal protein is which has more added value than the oil. We have sought alternatives so that this policy returns to the Northeast. And first, going back to the Northeast is really important. The workers that had mamona was really studied that had this alternative produced mamona. Mamona did not prosper. The soy production in the South was more prominent, and now more than soy, or alongside soy, we talked about all of the other, for example, all the other plants, oil seeds, canola, chicken oil. There are other alternatives that are already used for biodiesel production. And as I said, we are increasing our studies through cardamom, because safflower, because we have scarcity in terms of water. It's a culture that is very prominent in Israel and the desert. And we brought here, with the aid of the Federal University from the Rio Grande do Norte state, with great studies there. What comes from oil in a grain of soy is about 18 to 19%, and safflower can reach about 49%. So the very, very exciting prospects for the future, and the semi-arid region of the Northeast is probably going to start producing this.
We do have a concern that has to do with incentivizing monoculture, which is not the intention here. Of course, we are worried about food security, and we need to have on our tables what we need for our day-to-day. So we are incentivizing this because it's a survival, it's about survival for many people. And we will need to develop this further. The Ministry of the Economy is working with us. And they talk to us so that we understand that it's not just about incentivizing the production of a monoculture. We need to look at production, and a lot of people are living as producers by making biomasses for the biodiesel industry. We need to understand that this is an important discussion for all of us. Thank you very much. Secretary Morales, please. Well,
Jorge, parabéns pelo.
Jorge, congratulations for your presentation. Congratulations on your presentation. As a doctor, I love to talk about the diagnoses because there is no sound coming to the translation booth. So we're interrupting the translation for now.
Pronto. Ok, Jorge.
So, diagnosis is what leads us to the treatment and the cure. When you speak about development and knowledge, that knowledge sometimes does not reach the place it needs to reach. And that is an important diagnosis in all areas of knowledge and of Brazilian research. The big challenge for Brazilian research is how do you generate this knowledge, transform it into value for the population. So how do we do this? In Brazilian research, we have a lot of positive results, but how do we scale these results? This is not a Brazilian problem, it's a global problem. We need to learn here, and we learn this with Brazilian agriculture. We have done this with Brazilian agriculture, with tropical agriculture. How do we deal with this when we're speaking of new knowledge regarding bioinputs? I see here with your diagnosis that we have an open call with 72 million reals for bioinputs, new fertilizers, and many others. Maybe we need to speak with the Ministry of Agriculture and FINEP. Marcelo Camargo is here. He knows the open call. Maybe we need to do what I did when I was the vice president of CNPq. I implemented in the CNPq that all of the open calls, at least in my area, we had selected the projects and we started a framework with all of the researchers present. So this established where we wanted to go. And that's how we dealt with COVID. That's how we developed Brazilian vaccines. It's about directing this. So researchers who are selected for an open call on bioinputs, we need to direct them to the result. But this result needs to be linked to the producer, in this case, the agricultural producer. In the case of the vaccines, the pharmaceutical sector, or Fiocruz, or Butantan. Because otherwise, the research might be completed, but it will not have the results that we would like. So when we speak of microorganisms and directing through bioorganisms, we have many results, and we have research with these results. We conduct pilot projects, so we don't do the scaling of this, of what is done by the researchers. We start with a pilot project. So a pilot project on areas that have been affected by mining and other activities. It's not just about planting trees. You go to the affected area, you analyze the soil, you conduct the diagnosis on the best buds that will grow in that region that has been affected by mining or activities that use a lot of mercury, that produce a lot of mercury. And so we start with this pilot initiative. And then we think about scaling this according to the situation. And in this case, I think we could implement this pilot project. And this action with the Ministry of Agriculture is very important, because otherwise we would conduct the pilot projects and that would be it. And just to finish up this open call, we have a lot of resources, over 70 million reals. And these researchers, once they are selected, I would like to work with the Ministry of Agriculture, Marcelo, and have a ground zero kind of meeting on the selected projects so that we can decide how we want to follow these projects. And they know about this. Where can we conduct this experiment on the field, at our pilot farm, for example? How can we do this? By collaborating with the producers so that these results can be implemented in a product that is at least minimally feasible. Because if we might have good research, but we also need a product that is feasible. So this needs to happen. This needs to come out of the labs. The diagnosis is very important. So this is the challenge we're facing with FINEP, the Ministry of Science and Technology, the Ministry of Agriculture. These open calls and these resources need to be directed towards a scaling according to the dimension. Thank you very much. Thank you, Secretary. Bom, eu acho que foi uma boa e uma resposta.
You too, Jan, agree with me, I hope. Well, now I would like to pass the word to Ingo. My pleasure to call Ingo. Please, Ingo, welcome.
Muito obrigado, Bia. Sempre prazer estar aqui com você. Enquanto está carregando a apresentação, quero aproveitar o tempo de saudar algumas autoridades. Em primeiro lugar, o cônsul. Muito obrigado por estar aqui. Quero saudar também a presença do Ingo Plug.
And I want to greet Ingo Plug, who is my colleague from Abaki. Thank you to the head of the delegation for inviting us here. Guilherme, the head of the Sustainability Center, who is also here. Sebrae, responsible for the area in Brazil. The head of the European Commission, Márcio Vaida, who just, I think he just left. The Ministry of Science and Innovation, and other friends and institutions who are here. Embrapa, Marcelo, it's great to be here with you. So I just want to make 2 or 3 comments before I think they're still getting my presentation up here on the screen. Clecivaldo. So I feel like I'm from the northeast of Brazil, in my heart at least. And we want to understand that the National Biodiesel Program, we need to understand that the indirect impacts can be measured or evaluated as well, in the sense of structuring the production or the production base of castor beans, for example. This helped to structure the production base for castor beans, and I think that the family productions really were benefited by this because the productive base was structured. And Josiane, I think that, you know, we know about this project that started 15 years ago in Piauí and Maranhão. And when we speak of innovation, sometimes this also means we need to have a lot of patience. So I want to speak about the Agropolitical Dialogue. That is an initiative. I think I can go through my slides here. Okay, so this is a program of the Ministry of Agriculture and Food in Germany, and it's a partnership with many other countries. You can see here the partnership with Russia was suspended for obvious reasons, but there is an agropolitical dialogue with many other countries. And last year we started the agropolitical dialogue with the first country in Latin America, so which we possibly considered the easiest country to start with. But anyway, this is my company. It's a consulting company. It's a very peculiar, very unique company in Germany that conducts agricultural consulting in Germany and around the world, including here in Brazil. So the Agropolitical Dialogue, as I said, is an initiative started by two ministries in Brazil and Germany, and it involves many other stakeholders and leaders of the sector, of the private sector, and civil society as well, academia, and the intention is to create bases for a better understanding between both sectors. So the Brazilian agro sector, the German agro sector, and we think there is a lot of space and a great need for these conversations and exchanges. So these are the three areas that we work with in this agropolitical dialogue. So we organize webinars, publications, events, exchanges, and also face-to-face events, exchanges. We just conducted one on carbon farming, carbon markets in Germany. It was a collaboration with these two excellent scientists here, Georgie and Jan. Thank you so much for this collaboration and this cooperation. So the first area we work with here on the right side, you can see the partnerships. These are public policies. So we want to talk about public policies to improve sustainability. And of course, one of the subjects that we will deal with next year are the due diligence laws. How would we say that in Portuguese, Jorge? Okay, we will say due diligence. We'll stick to that for the supply chain in a more sustainable manner. And another area we work with is innovative finance for agriculture, for sustainable agriculture. And here we collaborate with the central bank and other institutions like the Brazil Coalition and IPAN, speaking about different payment instruments for environmental services. And the central bank has a very elaborated program with bold norms and regulations that make it mandatory for banks to follow these regulations, these national regulations for the environment.
And finally, bioeconomy, what we want to understand is, especially the way it has been highlighted here several times here yesterday and today, we want to understand as an engine for innovation and decarbonization for the economy as a whole. What we've learned so far is that Germany and Brazil have challenges, sustainability challenges for their agricultures, extremely different challenges. So we have a generalized understanding in Germany that there is the intensity of the use of pesticides and of the uh, fertilizers and extremely high, and so there's an understanding that we need to reduce sustainability in the German agribusiness is about reduction the intensity of the use of these components. And here in Brazil we understand that the intensity is to improve and increase sustainability and tends to have to be higher. It's extremely paradoxical and curious because to respect and understand these differences, I think, is a very interesting basis and necessary basis to actually, come in an equalitarian form. And the second point is that we should highlight that the livestock farming and agriculture in Brazil are much better than their reputation in Europe, but in general, but also in Germany. We would like to understand and look at both countries, but also look at through the eyes of each country to both agribusinesses. And we recognize that the reputation is much better, but obviously it's not only a matter of reputation. We know that the agro-technological process in Brazil has been impressively fast, and the sustainability issues have been at the head front of research in Embrapa, convincingly so. But while there is more than 90% of deforestation in the Amazon is illegal, and as well, while this phenomenon of deforestation, of illegal deforestation, not only just in the Amazon, but in the other biomes, it is really difficult to defend these progresses. And the third point is that we are convinced that there is an interest, not only just in Germany, but there is in Europe a global interest to dialogue and cooperate with progress, the agro-technological progress in Brazil, and go deeper and seek several ways to cooperate, such as this is one of the forums that we value a lot. We think it's a great, very important forum to interchange dialogue and go deeper into the cooperations for both countries and with other countries too. And finally, bioeconomy, as I mentioned before, we understand as a very powerful instrument for innovation and machine to promote, or like a machinization to promote technological progress. And obviously, nice to remember always, to decarbonize the economy, not only just in Brazil. We understand that without Brazil, we won't have a chance to really reach a process of decarbonizing global economy. I'm almost done. Talking about bioeconomy, we did at the APD several events, always looking at first Germany, then Brazil, and then creating dialogue environments and interchanging environments as well. We did a study, the state of the art of bioeconomy in Germany. We discussed it with authorities, representatives, scientists, and then we did the vice versa. The tour that we did this year about the carbon market and the relevance of the agribusiness in the carbon markets in Brazil. We did a tour in Germany. It was extremely fruitful with the colleagues from Embrapa and with representatives for the Agribusiness Global and FGV Agro and others. And in the start of this week, sorry, we didn't do it, but we actually lent our support with the exchange about bio inputs alongside the Minister and the Gon University and entities from Uruguay and Argentina and Brazil. And to finalize, I would like to emphasize a very important point, that we, in the political dialogue, we don't do our own research, but we would like to highlight our complementary role in this process. As I said, we want to look at Brazil and Germany with the eyes of the other. We want to be understood as a complementary agent, and we are always available at your disposal to any clarification that you may have. And any fortness, I can say, Dankeschön, muito obrigado. Thank you very much.
Obrigada, Ingo.
Thank you, Ingo. It's great that we have two Ingos here today. A very dear Ingo to me sitting over there. Nós temos dois Ingos aqui, muito caro para mim, você também, mas aí a senhora está na antiguidade, o princípio da antiguidade tem um ranking muito maior.
I would like to say, to pass the floor to Secretary Moraes. He would like to say something about your presentation.
Comentar a sua apresentação.
Ingo, congratulations.
Ingo, parabéns. Congratulations. Thank you for your presentation.
Estimula.
That always stimulates us.
Gostaria de
And
compartilhar com vocês.
I would like to share with you something that
sempre eu sou colocado à frente.
I'm always put at the head or facing this situation. When I presented the actions for science and technology in the World Health Organization, where with Tedros Adhanom, and I showed that in 2020, at the start of 2020, we had a structure. I brought the researchers for the Ministry of Science and Technology to create a strategy to face a possible pandemic that hadn't been announced yet, that was, nearing. And they created a strategy to monitor the virus in all the national territories. This is why you see the identification of the genetic sequencing and variants in the whole national territory. We have in all our territory the wild animals monitorization, and we use this network now to diagnose animals, domestic animals with monkeypox. We did respirators. We created 15 national vaccines produced by Brazilians. We have 2 Brazilians, one for RNA from Bahia, and started the clinical tests in January. And when I started talking all about to Tedros Adhanom in the presence of Marcos Pontes, the minister who was with us, they started looking and saying, "We didn't know that." When I say this to you, you also did not know that, right? Brazilian research, you either spend money with a researcher or you advertise what you're doing. And because of that, I would like to share with you what the Brazilian research is doing to mitigate the impact, the environmental impacts. The National Institute for Space, the INPI, is a very important institution within our ministry that monitors Brazilian biomes, deforestation, forest fires, and is extremely important. It was located only in the Amazon forest. I took it all the way to the Cerrado as well, in the center region of Brazil. It's very important attention to identify these focuses of illegal deforestation and wildfires. We have a research institution to do that for us. With the support of the ministry, we are broadening the scope for to all the Brazilian biomes. To mitigate the impacts of fires and deforestation, we have also got to invest in the local population so that they have resources to survive them. And the ministry, then, this is in the pilot, because we are responsible for the pilot experiments. We use scientists in our ministry, and we have the productive chains of bioeconomy that envelop these local communities. Regeneration with Regenera Brazil, as I mentioned yesterday, involves all of the local communities because we're doing open air experiments to forestry so that this population can also continue to use cupuaçu and açaí in these areas of regenerated forests. We have the Amazonic system of satellite labs that we're building 50 floating labs in all the Amazon so that we can take the researchers to do sustainable exploration of the Amazon. We have in the Amazon forest the monitoring towers for the environment, the ATO tower, which is in cooperation with Environment, that monitors the whole microenvironment of the Amazon. We took some ambassadors to visit it, including the German ambassador and so many others, to visit this whole thing that we're talking about. We have an experiment that we're doing, which is the Amazon face, that are rings that are put in 30 meter diameters in the, as you can see, for example, imagine a ring, and the forest is within this ring with several injecting CO2 and mimetizing the quantity of CO2 for 2050, so that we have the answer of how the forest will adapt or behave facing the increase of greenhouse gas emissions. This is an Brazilian experiment in cooperation with the United Kingdom. So all of this that I'm mentioning, we took the ambassadors that were not aware of this whole thing happening in the Amazon and the number of research projects that we have. When the Pantanal caught fire, I brought researchers to the Ministry of Science and Technology, and I asked them how they could help so that this wouldn't happen again. At the time, there was an extreme drought in the Pantanal. There was a whole favorable environment to the spread of the fire. And we asked, how can we mitigate this? So I created the Pantanal network of research, and we can see the results today. I don't need to mention them, right? We mitigated through the scientific competence the fires that happened in the Pantanal. So I would like to just point out to you that in this ministry, there is a very important action done by scientists through the ministry to mitigate all the Brazilian problems that we have: hunger, lack of resources, environmental problems that we are trying to solve through science. And only through science can we bring solutions to the problems. In pandemic, it was the same. We have results, and bringing the Brazilian vaccines into production with great help from Fiocruz is not to take care of COVID or to solve the problem, is to bring platforms for the Brazilian problems like dengue, chikungunya, Zika, yellow fever, with RNA vaccines to solve our problems. So I would like to, leave the message here that we are not aware of what Brazilian science is doing and what Brazilian scientists are doing. And so I would like to use this opportunity to show what we are also doing to mitigate the environmental issues here in Brazil. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Secretário Moraes.
Obrigada, secretário Moraes. Eu realmente não sabia sobre o que você nos contou agora e eu acho que muitas pessoas não sabiam. Só quero fazer um parêntese aqui, já que você está falando sobre mostrar o que o Brasil faz, eu quero mandar um recado que
that they are going to promote more and more in Berlin exactly initiatives that shows what we don't know about Brazil. So they are going to do an event now called the Amazonia Connection. And just as a parenthesis, I wanted to underline the importance of showing what we, even Brazilians, don't know. I want to pass very quickly, just a comment to Josiane, if you could, you want to add something.
Eu gostaria só de fazer algumas considerações que eu acredito ser importantes.
Considerations
Primeiro,
that I
esse
think are
diagnóstico,
important. First of all, about the diagnosis, you know, Brazilian society does not know about what Brazilian science produces, so we need to create a closer relationship between our society and science and knowledge. The work that we have done in the project, it needs this intersectorial dialogue. Because when we reach the territories, when we go to these places, we find devastated states and a situation of total inequity, be it inequality in the access to science, because, okay, in science we have a dialogue with our peers, but how do we really establish this cross-cutting dialogue between health, the environment, science? Because science cannot be something that feels like it's unreachable. It's something that is human. It needs to reach people. And just another comment, we have developed demonstrative units in the territories that we work in. We have conducted environmental recoveries through institutional partnerships, and we want to value this action of getting close to universities and technical units and the technical agents like Emater. These rural technical agents are very important for this connection between knowledge and society. And we have had some very good results in partnerships with the Institute for Forest Development in the state of Pará, with excellent agricultural technicians. So we need to think of this knowledge, the base knowledge, the technical knowledge, and the scientific knowledge, and we need horizontal and vertical axis for this. We need to think about this. That was it. Thank you. Excelente, Josiane, eu concordo totalmente. E agora, eu gostaria de começar a falar sobre o estabelecimento da economia sustentável, Dr. Peter Eisen, Lucas Iva e Felix Jacob. Peter, você está aí?
Where are you?
Peter?
I'm there. Wonderful.
Sim,
Welcome.
eu estou aqui.
Very well. Nice
Vocês estão me ouvindo? Maravilha, que bom te ver. Ótimo, muito obrigado. Muito
inviting me today here, and it's a big pleasure to be again at Green Rio. Unfortunately, I'm not there with you, but I promise you next year I try to do my best to be again in Rio because I like this country so much. So now I would like to share my presentation with all of you. I hope it will work. Please let me know if you can see the presentation.
It's coming, yes.
Yeah, I think it looks good. So now I'm back. Okay, so hopefully it works because I can see that. Oh, okay, so my slides can be seen. So I would like to talk today a little bit about the collaboration between ITAU and IBB over the last 12 years. So we have a long collaboration over the last 12 years. And it was focused, this collaboration, on innovations. From the beginning, we decided to focus on, I see that you are looking around. Is there any problem?
No, don't worry, because it was just a piece.
I cannot hear you, unfortunately. I tried to do it again.
It's the other way around. I'm sorry.
I do it again. So hopefully it's working now.
Yes, okay.
Yes, I can see something. Very good. So
thank you.
Let's try it again. I think it was 2 times now, and the best is 3 times, you know. No, the collaboration about ITAU I was talking about is now taken on since 2010, and I think we have reached a very nice approach in several protein and fiber sources. We were focused in this time on a lot of raw materials, and I would like to give a little summary about our approach. This means let's make joint innovation happen. This was our goal from the beginning. Together with German and Brazilian researchers and also with industry. And I would like to give you 2 examples of very nice success stories about Brazilian raw materials and how we brought this to the market and how we are planning to do the same in the next year with Macaúba, what was already mentioned today. So hopefully the presentation will work, yes. Here you can see our intention. So our mission, what we were defining 10 years or more than 10 years ago, Luis Mardi and me, when we were planning our activities in our project center, what is now called an innovation platform. So we decided to focus on developments of products and processes all the time, with the focus having innovation in our bag. So this means that we all the time think about how we can bring the results of the research from our research projects into products, processes in the market in the end. And the intention was also to bring together people, not only the ideas or some activities, also to bring together people from Germany and Brazil, and let them work together, let them think about the future, and let them think about how to solve our challenges. What we have heard today, unfortunately, or we have already heard it today, that there is a lot of challenges. And as I already told you, made in Brazil and Germany, this was our logo in the end, to say we would like to work together to find the best solution, fitting to the German requirements, fitting to the Brazilian opportunities and requirements, so that we can create the biggest benefit for both countries and, of course, for the people that are living there. And in the end, as I already mentioned, it has to go to the market, it has to be in the market, and it has to create jobs. Otherwise, I think innovation is not a real innovation. So what was our intention? Of course, development of products and processes. And I think I'm really proud, and I would like to thank Alexandre Martins. He's also in the auditorium today, for his effort and for his support that makes us able to have so many projects already funded. And I would also like to thank all of the funding agencies that are here today. I would like to come to this to a later stage. And you can see here that already just 4 projects are already completed, and that we have 7 ongoing projects in the moment. This means we have a very active collaboration. We are working all day on different kind of projects. You can see here sunflower, Macaúba, food waste, algae, and a lot of things. And I put out now that we have really a focus. The focus, what was the focus of my presentation? This is oilseed. Oilseed means everything we have heard about, the biodiesel project already today. The focus of oilseed production, of course, is the oil. And everybody thinks on oil, biodiesel, and everything what you can do with. But we identified that the most critical point is what to do with the residues. And in our collaboration over the last years, we could identify a lot of options, how we can use these residues, what we are producing by de-oiling, and how to create a lot of value added. And you will see later in my slides that the value added coming from the residues is much, much higher than the value added coming from the oil. This was our idea, having people together, and really until today we have more than 70 project partners in our joint projects together with not only ITAU, it's the IAC, it's a lot of institutions and universities in Brazil, as well as in Germany also. But you can see a lot of companies and a lot of people are working together to reach the aim, create joint innovation. We also had a lot of scientific congresses and a lot of workshops. So you can see our intention to bring together the people we could reach after a few years, that we could really demonstrate that the collaboration is real. And I think nowadays we can say, after 12 years, we can say it's not only a real collaboration, it's also a sustainable and long going on collaboration what we have. Come to the first oilseed, because this is the topic of my presentation of today, innovation from oilseeds. And Bia, I was talking about this, I think in 2018, when I was the last time making a presentation on your conference. I already was talking about the sunflower, but I would like to show it again to you. So how we are going ahead? We try to identify the challenge. From this challenge, we define research and development projects, hopefully to get funded. And in the end, we say, let's make joint innovation happen, how we can bring the results from this research and development to the market. And the answer is quite simple, even if it is not simple in the end, but the answer is quite simple. We have to create a value added that is of interest for industry, that is of interest for investors. We have to create solutions that offer a lot of value added, because then industry is interested, then investors are getting interested, and this is the fitting that is needed. As an example, this is Mato Grosso. This is, everybody of you I think know Mato Grosso, huge fields, huge areas, and here we have the sunflower as an intercrop between 2 seasons of soy production. What we can realize is if we put away the oil, if we press the oil, then we get a residue with a very low value. So the people there were suffering a little bit, that they said the value we are creating is not so high. Is there any solution you can offer? So we went to MCTIC, we went to BMBF, and we were asking, what do you think about a new project funding where we do a modification of the existing system of oil production? It was not a big modification, because in the end it has to be adaptable in industry, but it was a modification that had a certain challenge, and we could solve this challenge. We were able inside of this project, working together with, I think it was a dozen of people, and we identified a solution that was so simple, just dehulling the sunflower kernels and then create value added of both fractions of the oil. The residue can be used as a food ingredient. And what you can see now in the last slide, we created proteins with a value of more than €5 per kilogram, what is 25 reais per kilogram, from a beginning raw material that had a value of 1 real. So this step was the reason why we were able to find investors. So we found investors. We were searching, unfortunately, we were searching in Brazil. We could not find anybody. We had a lot of discussion, but the people told us, let's do it first in Europe, and if it's working, you can come back to Brazil, then we will realize this is there. And we were able to find 2 investors, strong companies from Germany, Centis and Lehrmann, and they created sunflower, Sunbloom together with us, the startup of Fraunhofer, what we did 5 years ago. And we were very, very proud. Last year, we started the production at the site of Centis, what you can see here in the picture. It's a production site, was investment of around about 15 million euro. And there was a large demand for additional research, but we could help everybody, and of course the design of the plant. And nowadays Thomas is producing here in this plant a lot of protein every day, and industry is really interested in. And of course, because I was starting 2010 to bring innovation in Germany and in Brazil, our intention now is to bring this technology again, hopefully back to Mato Grosso if there is enough sunflower available. And this is my intention for the next years, to try to find investors also for this technology in Brazil. Next topic, Macaúba. And we have heard a lot about oil today already, biofuels and so on. And what you can see here is the demand is increasing over the last 20 years tremendously. Each year we need more 6 million tons of oil. We have now a demand of 220 million tons. If it will increase like this, we will be in the end of 2040, we will have a demand of additional 120 million tons more. What is around about 330, 350 million tons? There is no area available for this amount. We don't have the land, but we need this amount. And what we should not do is deforestation or something like this. We should protect our environment. But how can we solve this problem? We need more and more and more oil. But on the other side, we have limited area. So the question is there any sustainable solution for this demand? And finally, we found nice partners here in Brazil. Yes, there is a solution. And we really, really think that macaúba can be the solution, can be the game changer in the problems what we are facing nowadays with rapeseed oil, with soybean oil, with sunflower oil, because macaúba can be produced together with pasture land, together with the production of animals. If we put this plant on a pasture land, there is more grass growing because this plant, this palm is making the soil more humid because of the roots, what is produced there. This plant is binding a lot of carbon dioxide. And in the end, the farmer can have more animals on the same area, even if he is producing additional oil. So what we can do is around about 2 tons of oil every year, 2 or 2.5 tons of oil per year. We can increase the quality of the soil. We can prevent erosion, and we have a great optimization of the soil quality. And this all without having additional land. We can just use the land what is already existing, and the land what is partly degraded because the animals were standing for a very long time just on grassland, and so the land was destroyed in a certain part. So we are now in discussion together with Inocas. I think all of you know this company. They are working on this integrated concepts, and they have designed a picture like this. We can say the future can be having the production of cassava, having production of animals, having production of soy, but additionally producing these palm trees, because this palm tree offers shadow. And as an example, coffee is producing the double amount of productivity if it is growing in the shadow of such palm trees. So I think this can be really, really a big game changer, this tree. And for this reason, we have focused a lot, and we would like to do the same what we did with the sunflower, we would like to do with macaúba. So the intention is, of course, on the one side, try to get a very high valuable oil and a fat fraction. There is a lot of things to do, and we had a discussion yesterday in the evening. I had a long call with Johannes from Inocas. There is a lot of challenges to get a high quality oil, but I think we can solve this. But the additional accept, and this was done in our Acrobats project that was also funded by the BMBF. Thank you very much again, Veronica and everybody who is there today. We have to use the byproducts, because macaúba not only offers oil, macaúba also offers protein and fibers. And these both fractions are very valuable. They have excellent properties, a wonderful taste. And if you see there, this is more or less the state of the art residue from the pulp oil pressing. This is the residue from the protein pressing. And if we get out in the end, our ingredients, they look a little bit like this. It is not black anymore. It is now more or less bright powder, and the protein also the same. And the protein has one very special thing that no other proteins have. You know, soybean, pea protein, they have the beanie taste because of the oxidation of the oil. And as we have inside this kernel here just fats, there is almost no taste. So you have a very neutral protein with a very high nutritional properties in the amino acid composition. And so we can also create from a low value animal feed press cake to a high valuable protein, as an example, that can be used for feeding people and so on. So totally my last slide about our macaúba is we have a huge potential in Brazil. I think Brazil is the country of the future if we are talking on oil and protein production for the future. Look at this, what I made some pictures about. This is the nice fruit we have on these palms. And this can offer not only the oil, we have it here, the fat and the oil can offer very nice value, but also we can produce these fibers, we can produce the proteins, We can also do the hamburger or whatever we would like to do with the proteins or plant protein products. You know, nowadays it's very, very popular. We can do this. We can also produce biodegradable films from this fibers here. The fiber fraction has fantastic properties. Yesterday we had a discussion how to optimize the properties of this fiber films. Additional nutritional fibers for different kind of applications. So you can see we can valorize the whole fruit and we can increase the value by this. On a yield of almost 36,000 reais per hectare. You know, everybody who's a farmer inside, this is a huge amount, and this is just the value what we produce additionally. So this is not we have to choose between soy or macaúba. We can do both in parallel, and we create this nice value added. And I think this is a nice idea for the future, and we would, of course, we are really motivated to work on this for the future in the next years. We are really thankful that the BMBF, BMEL, were funding us additional project. Today we already heard about the Agro Alliance project, what we are doing together with University of Viçosa, IAC, Itaú, and the University of Hohenheim. I think these are the core projects that can really change the game, and hopefully I think we can work on this for the future together with all our friends, all our partners in Brazil. And Pia, as I told you, next year I will try to be back again in Rio. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for all the partners that were financing our research. And of course, thank you very much for the people that were doing the work. And for this, I would like to stop. I hope I was not too long with my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. It's a pleasure to see your presentations because your enthusiasm is linked to us, and now I understand why macaúba is considered the superstar of the plants. I totally
Absolutely,
agree.
yeah.
Yes, I learned that from Alessandro too. So immediately, because now we are running out of time, I would like to pass the floor. Now it's the screen, not the floor yet. Dr. Volker Cyber, please.
Yes, hello everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about some projects here. Let me first share my screen. Oh, should be visible now, I hope. Yes.
Yes, perfect.
I actually would have liked, as Peter just mentioned, to be with you in Rio today, but maybe in another year it will be possible again. Last time in 2018, I really appreciate it. Now, since time is running short, I'll just jump into the talk. I'd like to introduce to you one project that's currently funded as a joint call between Thespian and the BMBF, which is about utilization of certain enzymes, sulfatases and oxidases, and you don't need to understand many of the details. But we use here the enzymes for creating new bio-based products and bio-based solutions. And so the title of the talk is, how we can utilize the natural diversity of enzymes here for tailor-made bioproducts. And see, the project itself is called Biotrim, and the idea is that in a more sustainable world, we would like to avoid petrol-based, fossil-based products and rather change to bio-based products. However, if you want to do this, these bio-based products have to fulfill all the specifications that the now used fossil-based products bring about, and that's not always easy. So we need a high diversity in specifications, many different products to then be able to create the products for our daily need. And another issue in sustainability is that whatever we are producing for our world is not allowed to be toxic and should not be non-degrading whenever it is released into the environment. And for these two issues, we can now go to the bio-based or the natural functions of microorganisms, of enzymes in microorganisms. And in this specific project we are looking here, we looked at marine-derived microorganisms to get new tools for our two goals that I mentioned before. And below here you see basically the whole research team at UNESCO. It's Professor Lara Sette, Iko Otero, and some further persons who I didn't have the picture. And then the team in Germany with mostly Alexander Fuchs doing great work, supported by Enrico Hupfold, but the real stars of the project are actually shown in the center here. These are the marine fungi, the ones that bring now the tools, the enzymes. And let's first start with the project about the new polymers, or biodegradable polymers. And this is about new varieties of carrageenans. You might know carrageenan from some of your food products, but they are also used in cosmetics and in other some technical applications. And carrageenans are polysaccharides that are extracted from red seaweed, from red algae. The world production is quite big, so it's quite a big market. And there are different types of carrageenans, these polysaccharides, depending on the number of sulfate groups. That's what the red encircled here. And so we have different types of carrageenans with different properties. Now, if you look at the world's map here, then you see that the seaweeds are obtained all over the world. However, at different parts in the world, different seaweeds are obtained, like the Chondrus crispus here in the northern Atlantic, or more in the Pacific region, you have Oikema species, different ones, Cotyledon spinosum. And in South America, actually, it's Gigatina, which is heavily used. And so what the production used to be that the seaweeds were collected from natural sources, but nowadays, especially in the tropical areas here, and as far as in Brazil, then there's actually seaweed farming going on, which is a good source of money, good source of income for people that used to depend on fishery. Now with not so many fish around, no jobs, they started to grow these seaweeds, get an income, especially also women. So it's really a very good way, growing these carrageenans, seaweeds, to get income to these marine environments. And we heard a lot about agriculture today and getting plants from the land and from the forest, but don't neglect the marine environment here. So quite a good source. Now, what I said is that you need the right specifications, and we do have certain variants here, and different seaweeds bring different combinations. And what we were looking for is possibilities to enlarge the toolbox of carrageenans, to have more different types of carrageenans and be able to produce them more efficiently. And for this, we're working here for enzymes that would split off the sulfates, and by that also standardize the product. And for this now, we obtained these, Lara Sette, our partner at UNESCO, obtained these marine fungi from the Antarctic region, send them to us, and we were screening them for the right activity. And you always get disappointed if you get this flat line here, that there's basically no activity. But you see there's one hit. So we actually were indeed able to find here one enzyme that's doing the right job. Unfortunately, this one strain, we don't have the sequence, and it's a lot of work to get the sequence. So we were a bit in a hurry, so we rushed forward and went into some bacterial sources where we did some genome mining, and indeed were able to find now different sulfatases, which are active at different natural carrageenans. And you don't have to understand all the different ones. So here are two commercial ones in blue, A and D. And now by the action of one sulfatase, we get these two new hybrid variants, and another enzyme with the action down here will now get to further polysaccharides, further variants. And this might look a bit boring if you're not a chemist here, but what's interesting is that now we produce the enzyme and we analyze the carrageenans, we produce the carrageenans, and indeed found that with some of the modifications, we now have a reduced gel strength and reduced system stability. So in the application, for example, in cosmetics or in some of the food, this might be helpful, but usually it's not. However, on the other hand, we have here variants, hybrid variants, and new beta-carotene, the character and stability are highly improved. So this is now offering many new applications, and specifically the beta-carotene doesn't have any sulfate anymore. With that, it's not salt dependent anymore, and so you can apply it in many new fields where the now commercial genes are not possible to be applied. And we went one step further and applied the sulfatase that or the sulfatases that we newly developed, so that we newly identified. We included them into the production process. So we obtained different types of seaweeds here, Chondrus, Capaficus types, and we did the extraction as it's done in commercial processes. However, we included and excluded the sulfatase. And what you see here is that for the different varieties we have, there's always the increase in the melting temperature, but also in the gelling temperature. And even more important here, actually sulfatase here is also right, is that we have much stronger gels, which you also see here. So when you include the sulfatase, you have a gel formation. No sulfatase, it's just like water. So this is now giving a great opportunity for enlarging the product range and make seaweeds and the growth, the cultivation of seaweeds even more beneficial, get more money out of it because you can find a wider market here. And this is certainly possible for the seaweeds that are grown in Brazil, but also for all over the world. And this last few minutes, I'd like to go to the second part of the project, which is about the bioremediation. In this case, detoxification and decolorization here of textile dyes, toxic textile dyes. And these are not specifically found in environments, in the sea, in marine environments, but the effluent waters where these toxic molecules are found and where they have to be degraded are quite high, have quite high salt concentrations. And so looking now into marine environments for organisms from marine consortia that can degrade such molecules would be beneficial to get then the enzymes to be active in the high salt conditions. And indeed here marine consortium was found that was able to degrade such compounds, detoxify it and decolorize it quite nicely. But if you have this consortium, it doesn't really help you. You need to get to the real tool, the enzyme at the end. And to get this, then Laracete, our partner, was enriching certain fungi, which were able to decolorize here this sulfur indigo blue dye, and identified two fungal strains that was very, very active in this. And from these fungal strains, then a certain enzyme, a lacase, was obtained. And I'm not going to describe the lacase. The problem is when you know a certain enzyme, it doesn't help you at all. What you need to have to be able to produce the enzyme. And today you talked a lot about upscaling. So getting the tools, the enzymes at a high concentration at the low cost, that's very important. And here the Brazilian PhD student, Igor, came to my lab in Germany, where we had developed this PK Pastoris synthetic biology toolkit to create different variants with for finding the ones which have the highest activity, for then using these basically as an almost commercial platform to produce lots of enzymes. And now this lacase that has been identified as being able to detoxify these molecules, we found here good conditions for the production, and then could characterize it more, and found also that it's very active in the decolorization and detoxification. There's very different dyes here. and under different conditions with some helper molecules. So working quite nicely, and now it's further in the upscaling and application process with Laracete again in Brazil. And I think my time is off, so I certainly would like to thank the funders here for PESP, for the Brazilian side, and the BMBF for the German side. This was just one project that has been going on now for about 2 years, and I think we are on a very good track here. Still have a few things to do ahead of us, looking at the project plan, but we are optimistic to really find here new products for new markets, and by that, a new valorization for people in Brazil and beyond. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And we are, of course, we are going to follow your advice. Don't neglect the marine environment. I think this should be in capital letters. Thank you very much for everything you proved that you're right in this advice. So immediately I pass the screen to Dr. Felix Jacob, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the invitation and that we have the opportunity here to present the results of a joint project between us, so the groups of Professor Schwanenberg here in Aachen and Professor André Priech. And in Brazil, we were collaborating with Professor Henrique Ferreira from the State University of Sao Paulo. And the overall goal of the project was to develop new strategies for pesticide reduction, so that we need less active ingredients on the field. And I mean, the reason is simple. What we saw is, I mean, what we are faced, as a society, as a world, we have a growing world population. We do not have endless resources, and we have to use these resources in a responsible manner, right? And at the end, which is a bit mean in my opinion, is what this does is it increases the pressure on agriculture and especially on farmers. And then at the end, we have to work on innovations and solutions to release pressure and to also make the agriculture more sustainable, especially if you see also that there is the strong need also to reduce pesticide usage here in Europe, especially with the directive and the Green Deal. So at the end, I think 75% is the goal, that we should reduce active ingredients. And what is a major cause of active ingredients loss is rain fastness, right? So at the end, we applied the active ingredient to the plant, and it has to stick to the surface, and only if it's on the surface it can protect. This is an example of a sugar beet leaf, so with a high concentration of a copper formulation, and then after some rain events, I mean, there's almost nothing on the surface that can protect the plant against pests. Of course, there are added some polymers, so adhesion promoters, and our approach is to use bio-based adhesion promoters, so we call it anchor peptides. We develop peptides that at the end adheres in a strong rain-fastened manner to the surface. And what we use there is the repertoire that nature offers us, right? So at the end, we are looking in nature where we can find peptides that strongly interact with surfaces or membrane like antimicrobial ones, right? So what you see here is the Secropine A. It's a perfect match of a peptide with an with a membrane of a bacteria, and it really sticks there and anchors. And on the left-hand side is the LCI. So what you see here is a lot of different amino acids pointing to the surface of a material, and then at the end, the multitude of the interactions gives you a really strong, irreversible binding of the peptide, and we call it a bit the gecko principle, because at the end it's the same. So a gecko is heavy and it can walk up a window, right? And this is what we do. And these peptides we investigated for leaf binding. So we fused a green fluorescent reporter protein to the peptide and then applied it to different leaves, potato, barley, apple, and sugar beet in this case. And then you see here, without the anchor peptides, you have no fluorescence. With the anchor peptide, you have the fluorescence, so you have the binding and interactions. We also validated this with the rain simulator, so we have a rain-fastened adhesion here. And these peptides are biodegradable, bio-based. they are rain fastened. We had in more than 17 days stable in the environment, and at the end they are plant compatible. And of course, we can use them also to replace some polymers which are in the debate to being microplastic that is banned on the fields, right? And then you can apply it by simple spraying on the surface. So you spray it, it adheres, binds, and it's there. And in a recent study, we are also working on the understanding. So the peptide at the end binds to the wax of the leaf, and then we identify key residues. And the key thing is that we can make the binding of this wild type peptides even stronger than it is now and more rain fastened. And with this technology, we developed two applications. One is on the left-hand side, you see a purely peptide-based application or protein-based, where we have an anchor peptide that binds to the leaf and then presents an antimicrobial peptide or antifungal peptide. And this we developed once for fungi, so a soybean rust in a successful manner. And on the right-hand side, it's a more versatile system. So we decorate a microgel container where you can load all kinds of different active ingredients in. And with anchor peptides, bind it rain fastened to the surface. And then we have a slow release of the active compound. And by this, reducing the amount of active ingredients that is needed. And this technology we developed in pre-projects in the Bioeconomy Science Center here in Germany, and we had these technologies at hand, and we were really lucky that we had a very good visiting postdoc in our group, Letizia. She was from Sao Paulo, and then we said, okay, maybe we can make a cooperation with your home country, right? And we were looking for collaborating partners in the road of this ProPlanta project, and we came up, or we identified Professor Enrique Ferreira, who is working with the citrus canker, which I will show you later. And then we were even more lucky because we got the funding from the Bioeconomy International course. So on the Brazilian side, FAPESP was funding the work, and in German side, the BMBF was funding the work. And Enrique told us, which I was not aware of, is that Brazil, is the producer of orange juice, right? And the exporter of orange juice. So 80% of the orange juice that you get is exported by Brazil. Yeah, and therefore, of course, also economic-wise, this activity generates a lot of jobs, more than 200,000 jobs in Brazil, but there's a threat, right? So what Enrique is working, he's a microbiologist, and he's working on a pathogen called Xanthomonas citri, which is causing the really serious citrus canker. So if you do not control citrus canker, as I learned, there is no yield in the orange fields that you really can use. So it's really important to control it. And this is at the moment done using a lot of copper formulations, right? Copper has a long history in pesticide. It's really effective, but at the end, it's a heavy metal. It accumulates in the soil. It might get in the food chain. So I think it's really worth to investigate alternatives for the copper treatment. And this is what we did. So in the ProPlanta project, we jointly developed a bifunctional peptide. So first we identified a peptide that is binding to an orange leaf. So this you see here by the green fluorescence. We had the orange leaves and then applied it with the green reporter. And everywhere where you see green fluorescence, we have a binding. So we have a peptide that at the end gives us a strong binding to the surface. And the other component has to be active against Xanthomonas citri. And there we were going to literature and checking different antimicrobial peptides. And important was that this antimicrobial peptide is active as a fusion protein because it will be fused to the anchor peptide. And there we were lucky. We screened several ones, and one was really efficient. It was an antimicrobial peptide that also did not bind, which is really important to the leaf surface. So at the end, we have a really good orientation of the antimicrobial peptide on the surface of the leaf. And this one was active against Xanthomonas. Then we produced it in a scalable manner, right? It's a recombinant production process. We can scale it up to 100 liters in our facilities. We produced the peptide and shipped it or sent it to our collaborator, Professor Enrique Ferreira, and he applied it in greenhouse trials to the orange trees. And what you see here, this is the water control. So you count all these brown lesions, and with the water you see a lot, so without any treatment. With our bifunction peptide, you see almost the same protection as with the kappa, right? So at the end, we have a protein-based protection, and if you compare the active ingredients, we have also threefold less active ingredients in the system. So for us, this was a success, and we continued with the second strategy. So at the end, with the microgel. What is a microgel? For sure, a lot of you maybe did not hear this term before, but we in our institute have Professor Piech as a leading PI there, and this is a nice electron microscope picture of a microgel. So you see it's not like a round ball, it really spreads on the surface, and you have a really nice covering of the leaf area. And within these microgels, we want to put some active compounds. Another advantage of a microgel is that it has responsive properties. So imagine if it's dry, it shrinks, it protects the active ingredients. If it's humid, when the citrus canker comes, it swells and releases slowly the active compound. And therefore we have, a protection when we really need it, so when it's humid. And Professor Piech is synthesizing this microgels from renewable resources. So polyolefin-based, but also polysaccharide-based ones. And within the microgels, of course, we at this point, we did not want to put the kappa again. We included galates, where Professor Ferreira is working on. So galates are alternatives for kappa, what he investigated also the different mechanism of actions. And what is interesting is there is a galate, octylgalate, which is also used as a food additive, so it seems pretty safe to use it. But there was an issue because this one did not really adhere to the surface and was easily washed off. So the idea was to combine the microgels with the active ingredients and the galates. And this is what we did within the course of the project. And at the end, it's one final figure, right? So what you see here, it's again like the leaf acid before, the lesions. What you see here with the untreated water control, you see the microgel with the gallate, loaded with the gallate, similar amounts to the kappa active ingredients, and you see a perfect protection of the orange tree against citrus canker under dry conditions. If you put rain, so if you simulate rain, you see that you still have a very good protection, not as the kappa, but still, as a first 3-year project, I think this is quite remarkable, the results that we achieved here. And with the means of the engineering, we can still improve the rain fastness if needed. With this, I'm already at the end of the talk, so I hope I could show you how we developed alternatives for kappa in the ProPlanta project. And we made the first steps for safer biodegradable alternatives to kappa-based defensives. And I hope that in the maybe if we get the possibility in a follow-up project to really scale it and to bring it also to field applications to further investigate the protection potential of this technology. And therefore, I'm at the end of the presentation. I would first of all thank the team from Enrique Ferreira in Brazil and the whole ProPlanta team who worked hard on this project and made this happen. And of course, I would like to thank the funding agencies from Germany, BMBF, and PESP from Brazil again for funding this really, really exciting research. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Jacob. It's always wonderful to see a picture in the end of the presentation that shows how many people are working together to bring some new technology to help our planet. We as much as we have run out of time, but we cannot miss the opportunity to have Marcelo with us, and so he's going to do a very short presentation. We cannot waste this opportunity. Thank you, Marcelo, please.
Acho que esse tá aqui. Bom, primeiro eu queria saudar todos os presentes, em especial os nossos colegas alemães, a equipe da Josiane, da Fiocruz, o Clecivaldo, o secretário Marcelo Moraes, o Bruno Nunes, que aqui representa o secretário, e em especial Maria Beatriz. Ou seja, eu gostaria de começar, eu sei que o tempo é curto para mim, botaram 2 minutos, mas eu queria dizer que a Green Rio tem se constituído exatamente como um grande fórum para a gente combater essa questão da assimetria da informação, que é muito ruim para o país. Ou seja, a gente tem que dar exatamente a notoriedade, o que tem que estar se desenvolvendo e publicizar os resultados do que a gente vem fazendo. Quando sentei aqui na cadeira, eu vi aqui um prospecto sobre o German Center for Research and Innovation. E se a gente analisar assim, o que a gente no país, a gente ocupa de vanguarda,
what we have in terms of forefront of technology, we could understand that oil is an area that we have the forefront because we had a strategic vision to invest in Petrobras and the universities in Sempe to create this synergy of the helixes could work. And the same thing happens with Embrapa. Embrapa is a reference, a world reference we have in the agribusiness because we think strategically ahead and develop a great research center that is Embrapa. And now we also have the aeronautics with the CTA, Embraer, and ITA. So we have to start thinking again strategically in this country. And we have some new research centers that we can occupy with biotechnology, for example, at GREET, Ana Beatriz, which is to promote this debate and look and say, we need to occupy this space before it's occupied by others. And I think that our country needs to have this strategic vision. I don't know if I can...
Mas vai ser difícil para mim. Mas basicamente a gente está um pouco de to our colleagues from Germany. I presented this presentation yesterday privately about the results that we had.
Os resultados que nós tivemos.
Essa esteira da gente ter que ocupar essa posição da biotecnologia é muito importante as parcerias. E essa parceria com a Alemanha é muito importante para nós. E nessa chamada que teve perdão,
Sorry,
pode ser tão rápido assim?
it can't be that fast.
Não sei se está passando aqui.
There we go.
Nós tivemos
we had in this call the signing of in 2019, which created the release of 2 editals with a very small commitment. I think we need to be more ambitious to create this new resources for this joint initiatives. We have about 10 million from part of Brazil, from 2 million euros for the German part, and we concentrated that in the aromatic and medicinal plants and industrial use of biomass. We actually had projects or initiatives for companies and for ICTs, which varied about 200,000 to 2 million reais, and we have now some contracted projects for 36 months to be done in 36 months. And what we note, what lessons learned do we have? It's kind of hard to go forward with the slide, but here we go. Establishing the cooperation agreements is a large bureaucracy between countries that we need to improve on. We had several meetings that requested these deals, how we're going to evaluate these projects. We created 2 webinars, and then we had a reunion with all of the boards to reach a final list. In the submission, what we realized is that the public calls, we had several offers, but we had 99 started, which means we still have to poke our business people so that they are interested to participate in calls like this. And for the ICTs, we had a larger volume. We had 40 submitted offers, and what happened was that the demand for resources was extremely high. Here are the statistic results for the call for companies. We had 7 offers submitted, and then the ICTs, we had about 62 million requests, but obviously the resources for this call was so very restricted, and we had excellent projects with excellent rating that could not be supported because there was a need of a support from the German side and our side. What happened is that we had 3 projects that were supported, one in Santa Catarina in Joinville, another one in Goiás, the UFG, and another one in Viçosa, and another one from a company, Peplast, which is the production of colorants for non-aggressive colorants. And so these are the 4 projects that we decided to invest on. As you know, I'm not going to read the scope of the projects, but you had in the 2 areas significant, relevant with really high grading, but we also had a demand that could not be supported. So this is the ongoing call. Most of them has all been contracted. The resources have already been transferred, and now we need to supervise these projects and try to do this from the Brazilian part and from the German side harmonically. And since this is a joint venture, we actually need to have both sides following up on us. And one project we're having a bit of a delay because of the signing of the contract from the part of the Germany, but I believe we will be able to move forward with it. Another very important point is to combat this asymmetry of information. I'm having to speak very fast, I know. We are releasing another submission call for bioeconomy projects to one model for city and other for companies, where we took a step to incorporate the helixes. And obviously in this case, we're talking about the community. We talk about the quadruple helix, the state, the university, the companies, but also community that is the direct beneficiary of these projects. And these calls have this matter at center. If they have the approval of the community, is the only way that they will be supported. So we have another for ICTs that's 28 million and 12 million for companies for bio areas for bioproducts and bio inputs. So circular economy, we are going now to start to communicate this and combat this asymmetry of information. As it was said before many times, we would like to have a lot more projects received and submitted, and we have to start to create mechanisms in order to communicate all of the initiatives, the results. And then I'd like to point out that Green Rio consolidates ever more as a forum where we can come show the results and new initiatives. The calls, as I said, are for companies or ICTs. For companies, it's from 500,000 to 2 million, and there's a deadline of submission to November of this year. So there's a large period, but even though the community being involved, we need to get the mutual cooperation agreement, or we will have to try to improve our communications. And last, we would like to use the opportunity to talk a little bit about lessons learned. It's a little complex. It's not going forward. There we go. So I think it's important for us to understand that we have a very important problem with this currency exchange in this, because it was a big problem to hire more projects. It's very important for us that not only Brazilian institutions, but also the Germans and all the countries that want to do the partnerships with us, that we are able to unlock the access to these institutions. Not only the Germans had some troubles on their side to access our institutions, and for us to access their institutions, to be able to create a unique platform or a sole platform for the submission of projects, which I think is extremely important. A standardized evaluation process as well is very important, and we also need to discuss what's being talked about and what are the new areas that are interesting for both countries, which I bring Green Rio as a great forum for debate, giving this perspective view of what are the new areas that we need to occupy in biotechnology and bioeconomy. And last but not least, we have projects. We need to have follow-up methodologies that are accepted by both countries, and have checkpoint meetings consistently to evaluate the going on these projects, to create standardized reports to communicate society of our results. I highlight once again that this matter of the centers, I'd like to comment that FINEP has a public call, understanding that we approved in the Environmental Innovation Letter the advanced strategic centers for technology. They have 250 million in resources where we are with a consultative committee by ABC, SBTC, Unprotec, and other are participating as well. A really high-level council that is discussing strategic centers for the country, that so that we can understand and repeat the successful experience that we had with Centis, oil, and Embrapa agriculture, and with aeronautics. So we are receiving 38 offers from centers. So we're going to make it more open. So bioeconomy, biotechnology is a topic in one of these centers. So we need to have this vision to occupy this space. We're going to have great research centers in our nations so that we can get universities, companies, funding. I'm sorry, I was late. I know everybody wants to go to lunch. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcelo. I wonder how
Obrigada. Estou curiosa com os intérpretes aqui.
I will try to speak in English, but I think that probably
Eu queria
the audience is Brazilian people. Then I...
Não, you're right. Você está certo. Mas é que eu também agora vou ter que terminar rápido essa fala, essa mesa. Muito obrigada por todos pela presença.
Thank you to everyone. This was fantastic. Muito obrigada. Acho que funcionou bem.
Bruno, if you want to say.
Bruno, você quer dizer alguma coisa?
I don't know if you're going to match Marcelo, but you can try.
Eu não sei se vai dar depois dessa fala do Marcelo, mas você pode tentar. I just want to thank you once again for this possibility of having Green Rio as a platform for international collaboration, and for promoting these products and our open calls, our actions for the bioeconomy. And it's great to see this movement growing, to see Green Rio growing and bringing forward new partners, and the collaboration between the Ministry of Science in Brazil and the Ministry of Science in Germany. Seeing these collaborations growing, we've seen some important steps happening recently. It's good to see each other face to face again, so that we can discuss what started in 2017, then 2019, now 2022. I hope this can be annual now, so that we can advance on the subjects that we determined yesterday. So thank you, Bia. Thank you to the German delegation and everyone who is present here today, because this is a great possibility to share our information. Thank you so much, Bruno. You're so important here.
Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada.
Delegation, to the Brazilian delegation, to all of you who have spent the morning with us. We have a very short break, but the program continues very good in the afternoon. I must close the table now, but thank you very much. A pleasure, prazer enorme. Parabéns, time do Brasil, deu show de bola. Congratulations, team you also gave. I don't know how to translate show de bola, but anyway, you were great. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.